2008 bore the record of one of the worst financial crises in human history. It was so bad, thousands of previously stable families were thrown into stark poverty as the economy struggled to find its footing. Homes were lost and never recovered. Terrible mistakes were made, and yet it appears that something similar may be stirring right in our day. One that promises to be more devastating than the last if measures are not put in place fast enough. In today's video, we'll trace what happened back in 2008, how it affects us currently, and how a repeat is possible in 2024. We will provide a solution to salvage the situation before it gets out of hand. The fall of the housing market in 2008 left a bad taste in the mouths of those who remembered and were victims too. Owning a home is a major goal of most people, and when the opportunity to be a homeowner presents itself, it is a crazy rush. Recently, the market has been quite competitive as prices are really high with limited available housing. The pandemic contributed to the record increase in home prices and interest rates on mortgages. But how did the pandemic make the housing situation worse? Ever since the COVID-19 pandemic, house prices have skyrocketed, and despite some agents' assurance of prices coming down, this has not been proven entirely correct, as many parts of the country still struggle with the high prices of housing, and it hasn't been any easier on first-time buyers. Hopes for such a turnaround were high because of the anticipation of more inventory in the housing market, which would then result in less competition. This miracle still remains elusive. An asset bubble, as witnessed in times past, has yet to repeat itself. The number of people willing to sell their homes has remained low due to economic reasons. Potential buyers are skeptical about buying now that prices are so high, in hopes that they'll come down soon. That's yet to be seen. During the housing crisis, the average home price was $198,100, and it has been climbing steadily from that to $222,400, $336,900, $400,000, and higher in other places. Now, let us go back in time to the days of the pandemic. Globally, there was a drastic change in the mode of work. A lot of people started working from home. This new shift in the working system suddenly made the current taste in the working environment change. Using your bedside table no longer held much appeal as a workspace. Hence, people had the desire for something more, a home office. Buyers flooded the market in search of their dream homes, creating a demand and supply imbalance. Demand became higher than supply. To control the situation, the feds had to raise mortgage interest rates. Before this, an economic stimulus had created inflationary pressure on housing prices. This seemed to work as it prevented many buyers from going ahead with their purchase plan due to unfavorable interest rates. Original homeowners were scared out of selling to buy new homes too. It's a natural response, you'd agree. Selling your current home with a manageable mortgage in exchange for one that's noticeably higher would make you think twice. In 2008, the housing crash that occurred was caused by too many defaults on mortgage payments. Lending standards were pretty loose to encourage buying, and it ended up being known as one of the worst housing crises to have been experienced. Let's go a bit deeper here as we review more on this. As expected, supply has greatly reduced. With high prices and a reduced demand supply, the housing market is not in a great place at the moment. However, there are some who take the increases as a good sign in hopes that they continue to increase, and then they could sell at a profit much later. You see, the interest rates becoming twice what they used to be is making everyone worry about a possible market crash in 2024. It's not like things haven't been this bad since the last market crash. After all, the 30-year fixed interest rate over the last 50 years has been 7.75%, but this time around feels quite different. As economic activity continues to remain nearly unchanged, housing activities themselves have remained stagnant, and mortgage demand has remained low. Why are experts so worried about a repeat of the 2008 housing crisis? Let's take a look back at 2008. In 2008, many investors were looking at options to put in their money, and the housing alternative appeared very appealing. This led to a rapid increase in housing prices caused by speculation, excessive lending, and a belief that home prices would always rise. Banks and other financial institutions had to encourage more people to buy houses so investors could buy mortgage-backed securities, MBS, and collateralized debt obligations, CDOs, bundled together, which were supposed to be low-risk investments. Well, banks and other financial institutions, seeing how lucrative the business was at the time, began offering mortgages to borrowers with low credit scores and even unstable financial backgrounds. There weren't strict measures to check if borrowers were qualified and capable of paying back in time. To further exacerbate this, the loans given out, called subprime loans, started out with low interest rates, but later went up because of the adjustable interest rates placed on them. It was a subprime mortgage crisis. In no time, repayments became unaffordable for borrowers. Credit expansion was non-existent. Housing prices fell, and homeowners defaulted on their mortgages. Prices of houses fell by 27.4% from their peak in 2006. Some areas witnessed a 50% drop. Families lost their homes, and those who were lucky to save theirs weren't 100% better off as they saw the painful decline of their house value. Now, due to the already popular use of mortgage-backed securities and collateralized debt obligations, the collapse of the housing market has had a ripple effect across the global financial system, causing a credit crunch and liquidity crisis. The value of MBS and CDOs plummeted, leading to significant losses for financial institutions and investors. To crown it off, the economic slowdown, job losses, and stagnant wages made it much harder for defaulters to keep up with payments. Ultimately, there was a global recession due to the financial contagion. Multiple bank failures, bailouts of major financial institutions by the government, and merging of companies, among other indicators, became the order of the day. You can imagine how such a time was for those caught in the heat of it, and why speculations of a repeat are terrifying. Lately, the increasing housing costs are raising alarms. Low and middle-income families are unable to afford housing. Rents keep increasing, making it nearly impossible for one to save up for homeownership. The price of mortgages discourages those who dream of owning a home. The housing affordability crisis is already causing homelessness problems across the country. Families and individuals risk being thrown out and joining thousands of others who are without adequate housing. There is currently an increase in mortgage prices. Good for everyone. Lessons have been learned from the 2008 crisis, and a housing crisis happening in 2024 is highly unlikely. This doesn't mean 2024 will be a smooth year. With high mortgage rates between 6.22% and 8.10%, plus inflated home values and limited houses up for sale, we can all but keep our fingers crossed. As stated earlier, seeing a repeat of 2008 is highly unlikely. Characterized by questionable incentives, moral hazards, systemic failures, flaws in regulatory oversight, market self-correction beliefs, and unethical practices within the financial industry, including our own human failure, the crisis revealed our own human failure. Truly, lessons have been learnt. The lending standards have become much tighter now. Financial deregulation is done more smartly, and anyone applying to own a home and get approved is less likely to have problems paying regularly. 2008 saw more adjustable rate mortgages where rates could be changed suddenly, leaving homeowners to pay more than the value of their homes. A fixed-rate mortgage protects homeowners from changing policies. What this means is, despite the high mortgage prices in the market, previous homeowners continue to pay their original monthly fees. Another factor is responsible for current house prices. The Federal Reserve plays a part in mortgage prices going up. To fight the rising inflation, interest rates had to go up, and this affected the interest rates on loans. Back in the early 2000s, the Feds had done the opposite by reducing interest rates. They had good reasons too, as they hoped to boost economic growth and increase employment. This good intent backfired shortly after, as demand for housing increased to shocking levels. We can remember how that went down. Demand for housing increased along with home prices. Eventually, the Feds had to step in again, leading to the whole thing blowing up. This time around, the Feds are playing it smart and safe while they monitor the market. In spite of the elevated interest rates, individuals are still open to acquiring homes. Only this time, not everyone is cleared to proceed because of the improved borrowing and lending practices. A more enlightened financial sector, coupled with demographic and lifestyle changes, are pointers that the housing market is more stable. The absence of speculation, as was witnessed in 2008, also adds a safety net to the housing market. While the times leading up to the recent housing crisis saw an overabundance of houses for sale, the recent market is experiencing home shortages. Housing inventory has decreased significantly, with 1.49 million homes listed for sale, down by 7.8% year-over-year and 4% month-over-month. This is a sign that housing development is unstable. Rents are astronomically high, and individuals put most of their income into paying rent, draining their savings and further lengthening the time when they would be homeowners. For some, the desire to own a home is forever unattainable. Another reason why fears are high over a possible housing crisis is the whispers of a recession. If we were in danger of a recession, then that would take all our focus. Good enough for all, experts have said, fears of a possible recession are unfounded. Why shouldn't you worry about a recession happening anytime soon? Before a recession can be said to be happening, various factors have to play out. One such factor is if the gross domestic product, GDP, has experienced 2 consecutive quarters of decline. Second, are high inflation and borrowing costs slowing down spending? Is the manufacturing and trading industry experiencing a slowdown? Is the unemployment rate really high and accompanied by job losses? Well, you can answer most of the questions easily. The summary is that today's economy is quite strong, with a formidable job market, increasing wages, a record of low unemployment, and continued consumer spending. The state of the housing market will turn around in a matter of time, depending on how low mortgage prices go and the availability of more inventory. Homeowners believe it is unwise to let go of their low interest rates and sell at present only to be faced with much higher rates at their next purchase. There has been construction of new houses, but they are barely enough to meet demands and cause a real shift in the market. The housing shortage problem is one that has to be managed tactfully, as a reduction in rates will cause demands to shoot up. When demands shoot up, it'll cause prices of available houses to go up due to the competition caused by a limited supply of houses. Already, interest rates are being projected to reduce by 2024, making demands high along with the added pressure of home prices. This will end up becoming a tiring cycle of ups and downs. The upper class will be able to afford and benefit from this, while many desperately in need of homes will struggle as they battle the high cost of living and stagnating wages. In the past, home ownership was simple. One bought a house for the stability it brought. However, what we see these days is people buying houses for investment purposes. Housing has become an asset class. Meanwhile, gentrification continues to upturn the once stable lives of the middle class. This, on its own, causes instability and leads to financial risks. A limited supply of housing shouldn't fool anyone into thinking that a housing crisis is impossible and people aren't interested in buying homes any longer. It takes only a slight shift in the market for things to go bad real quick. While no one can say for sure what will happen as regards the possibility of a housing crisis occurring due to unforeseen circumstances, we have key indicators to observe and put necessary measures in place. But the question we should always ask ourselves is, if a crisis is likely to occur, what needs to be done to ensure it doesn't? Let us know your opinions in the comment section. Learning from the past and avoiding previous mistakes will ensure that a housing crash does not occur as prudential regulations and macro-prudential policies are put in place today.